What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
And together we are last week's album, The Only Reviews, with two different views. And in this episode, we're talking about the new album by the Temperance Movement called White Bear, and asking the question, does the Temperance Movement's White Bear maul your ears? Let's kick it off here. Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
Cheers, Kevin, everyone at home.
The Temperance Movement is a British hard rock, blues, and R&B band formed in 2011. They released their first EP, Pride, in 2012, and their self-titled debut LP in 2013. They then toured extensively for a couple of years, even opening for the Rolling Stones. And now this White Bear is their second LP, which I believe was released across the pond maybe earlier this summer, but it's just been released here stateside. And with that, let's talk about what it sounds like. Derek, what do you think?
Kevin, I think the Temperance Movement sounds like AC/DC gets really drunk with the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd in an outrageously awkward night, leading to them to call themselves the Temperance Movement.
Nice. That sounds like a crazy night. I wish I were there. Mine's a similar story. I think it sounds like Steppenwolf, the Black Crows, and Roddy Walston and the Business turn it up to 11.
Nice. I like the Spinal Tap reference there.
Let's talk about some highlights from the album. Derek, what do you have first?
Kevin, one highlight to me was just really the classic rock sounds they develop here. I thought it was really well executed, not only by the guitars and other instruments, but also vocally. Phil Campbell definitely proves he can wail with the best of them, for developing a sound that's rather familiar. They're kind of hearkening back to a lot of well-known sounds. I think they kind of find their own nuances in that realm of classic rock sound and put their own spin on things. So I kind of like that overall sound.
On a similar note, I think they mix heavy rock and blues really, really well. And in particular, they have a knack for keeping the heaviness sort of approachable and catchy. And I think White Bear, which is clearly the single off this album, I think it's the best example of that talent as well. Mixes this really catchy sing-along chorus with buzzsaw guitars and a really heavy beat. And a lot of times, heavy metal or heavy rock can be a little off-putting for the average person, but I think they make it really, really approachable here.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That one in particular really kind of shows the variety of sounds they can achieve.
The other thing that jumped out at me is how much guitar they use. I think guitar is becoming more and more rare these days, and they're not afraid to put it front and center, particularly on Modern Massacre, Battle Lines, and Magnify. You get a lot of guitar, and it sounds really, really good.
Battle Lines, I really dug the guitar work there. The vocal melody is mirrored, or it mirrors the electric guitar riff to really great effect. That also kind of reminded me of Black Keys a little bit.
And then lastly, as far as my highlights go, I thought, although most of the tracks here are fast-paced, probably 90% of them, they also prove they can slow it down. Songs like A Pleasant Place I Feel and Time Won't Leave are really good examples of this. And for me, Time Won't Leave is sort of the second standout track after White Bear. And here they get into this whole new territory of almost Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young with a really mellow vibe and some nice harmonies, which really caught me by surprise here at the end of the album.
The only thing I'm surprised about is the fact that you didn't mention I Hope I'm Not Losing My Mind in that list of softer songs. That one really jumped out to me.
Good catch. That is another slower number. Any other highlights you wanted to mention?
One thing that kind of jumped out to me is the surprisingly good lyrics. Like, I thought there were a number of gems hidden throughout here, from the track Battle Lines, when the money ain't winning the war, you redraw the battle lines, gerrymandering much, from White Bear, high price for wisdom, do your best until the best comes along. And finally, I hope I'm not losing my mind. Now I said it would be hard. Yeah, I told you so. Now it's all this psychosexual mind warp every night. I guess kind of thinking from this classic rock standpoint, I was kind of expecting songs about chicks, booze, and drugs. But instead, I was presented with much more thought-provoking lyrics, and I really enjoyed that.
Totally agree on first listen. I wasn't listening too hard to the lyrics, and then as I dug into them, they're actually pretty interesting, sometimes sort of cryptic and idiosyncratic and very sort of specific to this band, to your point. That sets them apart from all their influences that they might reference. All right, those are some good highlights. What about lowlights? Did you have any, Derek?
There was really only one that kind of stuck out to me. On the track "Oh Lorraine," there was a part where the lead singer kind of dropped a gravelly, screaming vocal melody, which was juxtaposed against really soft, minimal instrumental backing. It just really didn't work for me. I wasn't a huge fan.
I have a couple. They're not huge gripes, but number one, there's just not a ton of variety in sound or particularly pace. A lot of these songs tend to be fast, in-your-face wailers, and they are great at that. There's nothing wrong with that. There just wasn't a ton of variety in sound for me. And then secondly, I guess I'll kind of disagree with your first highlight, Derek. I think they wear their influences pretty obviously, and I wish that they would push themselves to be more creative and inventive. Granted, this is their second album. They're probably just getting into that more imaginative territory and building on their influences. So I'm excited to hear more of that, and I wish there were a little bit more of that here.
I think that's a fair take.
Enough about lowlights. Let's talk about overall rating and answer the big question. Does the Temperance Movement's White Bear maul your ears? Derek, what do you say?
To start with the big question, I think at first, I'll take a little lick, and then I'll take a little, a little nibble. It's not going to take your ear off, but at the same time, it might take off half a lobe or something. This one really kind of grew on me the more I kind of listened. Classic rock is definitely in their sweet spot, and they stick to it. Again, I was really taken aback at the strong lyricism, so that really kind of made it more of an enjoyable listen to me. So that being said, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5.
I think we'll agree for the most part. I will answer the big question first as well. Does this album maul your ears? I think yes, but in the best way possible. They attack your ears unapologetically with volume and hooks that will not let go, and hopefully you don't go deaf. I think it's a very fun record that's really good for a sort of party atmosphere, and I'm willing to bet they put on a really intense live show, just judging by their album here. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. It really grew on me over time, and I'm really, really digging it. There you have it. That's a combined 7 out of 10 for White Bear by the Temperance Movement. So definitely check out this album and let us know what you think about it. We'd love to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to us here at Last Week's Album, either on the YouTube channel or the podcast.